So thank you for joining us today. I'm Deborah Honig, a partner at Adelaide Capital. Adelaide Capital is an IR firm focused on small cap growth and value companies. And today I have with me Brendan Cahill, CEO of Excellon Resources. And he's going to talk a little bit about the recent acquisition that they closed. Thanks for joining me today, Brendan. How are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you loving this COVID scenario?
It's great. I'm getting very zen. The old home office here.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you have any outbreaks or anything at your assets?
No, we're good. We took steps very, very early on, kind of in early March or, late February. We put kind of the highest standards in place back then, and we're very much ahead of the curve in Mexico. So fortunate. I mean, these things doesn't matter what steps you take. This virus is extremely virulent, obviously, but so far we've been lucky. And I think that's all you can say. Take the best steps you can and hope for the best, and everybody does their part.
Yeah, it's I think people still really don't understand how quickly it's transmitted. I saw a study actually this morning that they think that 20% of New Yorkers have some sort of they have the antibodies. Whether that means they've had it or not is undetermined. But yeah, it really is just sort of developing as weeks pass. But I wanted to really talk to you about the acquisition that you just closed. What a crazy time to close an acquisition. Do you want to talk a little bit about the asset and also maybe what it was like closing an acquisition during this time?
Sure. So we just announced the closing of our acquisition of Otis Gold, which is a Vancouver-based company with assets in Idaho, the Kilgore Project and the Oakley Project. And very interesting, we announced this on February 24th, closed it on April 23rd. So from announcement to close, less than 2 months, which, great kudos to the lawyers and the team for getting that done, and even the BC court for hearing the final order on an urgent basis. But really, all hands on deck to close that transaction. But the great thing is, what a time to close the transaction. Gold at $17.25 yesterday, $17.30 yesterday. And our intention in doing this was, moving from being kind of a 50-50 precious metals and base metals producer, silver on the precious side and lead and zinc on the base metal side, to being over 90% precious metals and increasing our resource base by over 500%. And that's really because we firmly believe that, as everybody knows now, we're really into this new precious metals bull market. And the horrors that we've seen in COVID, they're kind of the final straw that has driven this bull market into overgear. And I actually think that we're still in the very early days. But this started back in May last year when gold moved through 1375, 1400. And we've been, positioning for this move really since then. And with this asset, very high quality gold oxide asset with significant exploration potential as well.
When you say positioning for this move, you mean moving away from the silver mine that you have in Mexico and making your portfolio more heavily weighted towards gold?
More heavily weighted towards precious metals. The Platosa mine that we've been operating since 2005, it's a small producer, 250, 300 tons per day. We're very focused on where we are in the market cycle. There's times to be a buyer, there's times to be a seller, there's times to be an explorer, a developer, and a producer, right? And I think where we are right now is you can still acquire ounces in the ground for very cheap. We bought Otis for about $22 an ounce or so. So a very accretive deal for Excellon shareholders. And the other interesting thing is that discovery gets paid for right now. We've seen that in companies like Silvercrest or Great Bear. The market is willing to pay for discoveries. There's both a need for new deposits, a need for new resources. And we're finally starting to see that glimmer that makes the mining industry so special, right? That, the 10 bagger, the 20 bagger, the 30 bagger, we're starting to see those in the market now, which has been very rare. The thing that we don't see in the market right now, or that I don't think necessarily is the smartest thing to be doing, is to be looking for finance for development immediately. Cost of capital is still very high, but as we move further into this bull market, we're going to move away from the private equity firms into the the traditional bank credit lines and see that cost of capital go down into the 5% or even lower range, considering where yields are in the global market today.
Hearing you speak about this actually makes me think that, it sounds very much like a portfolio manager. Is this driving your new strategy to have a portfolio of assets?
Absolutely. And it's, everything we do here, it's really thinking about it like being a trader. Because the thing is, we don't sell shoes. We can't design a new Air Jordan to suit the fashions of the time. We produce gold, we produce silver, we produce base metals. Our product is elemental. So what we would like to do is make sure that we're doing the right thing in the right part of the cycle. And then in the area of the most risk, but also the most torque, exploration and discovery, the goal of exploration, giving ourselves as many shots of that as possible. That's one of the things we've done. So with this acquisition, both this move into precious metals, rebalancing our portfolio to the the precious metals that are really, the choice today, completing our growth pipeline. So we've got direct exposure to silver with the producing Platosa silver mine, a very high quality gold development asset, and then this series of exploration projects that we can work on. And I kind of look at it in some respects like, Eric Sprott likes to pick this company and that company and really give himself a lot of exposure to success. And we've managed to do that with our portfolio of exploration assets. We move them all forward at once. And when you get a win on one, that, rises the boat of the whole company.
It's not just the commodities that you're looking at, though, with focusing it on the commodities. Like, the acquisitions that you're making are in really great jurisdictions and really hot areas. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the rationale behind that?
Sure. So with moving into Idaho, it's northern Nevada, some might say. Certainly the geological trends move in that direction. Obviously, hundreds of years of silver production up in the Silver Valley, and significant gold production back, in the 20th century, 80s and 90s. But recently, there's been a resurgence of gold in Idaho. Great companies like Liberty, Midas, Integra, of course, Revival. We've just done a JV, or Otis did a JV before the transaction closed with Centerra. So there's major interest in this jurisdiction now. So it's a great place to be, and it is still an up and coming jurisdiction. The other acquisition that we just did recently, an option actually, was in Saxony, Germany, which few people are aware that there's mining in Germany even, but there's actually over 50 underground mines in Germany, significant coal production, of course, both along the north of Saxony and the northern part of the Czech Republic. You go over the border into Poland, and there's these billion-ounce silver mines operated by KGHM. So in there, we found, a district-sized property, 164 square kilometers, with 35 kilometers of strike. It was mined for 800 years, from around the 11th century all the way through to 1870 or so. So when we saw this opportunity, it's really like, well, how do we have this opportunity? Why didn't somebody else find it? But then you start to peel back the onion of history, and you realize because of that, the way history works, this opportunity still remains. So in 1871, Germany won the Franco-Prussian War, got a large settlement in gold from the French, and moved off the silver standard. So the miners were told, look, we don't care about silver anymore. Many of them went over to America and down into Mexico and actually started the commercialization of mining in Mexico and started a mine actually quite close to our Platosa mine. And then you get into globalization, World War I, Weimar Republic, Depression, World War II, and then Saxony becomes part of East Germany, and the Soviets really focused on base metals and didn't really follow up on any precious metals exploration at all. It wasn't until 2011 that Germany realized, once again, we're losing control of our strategic metals and strategic resources, and started investing a lot of money into bringing mining and exploration back into Germany, and Saxony really being the kind of the central hub of metals mining in Germany historically. So it's pretty cool. Freiburg, the town or small city right beside the project, its nickname is Silberstadt, Silver City. which is actually where the project got its name. I wasn't a branding guru on that one.
That's interesting. I don't know that much about mining in Germany. So that's fascinating. How did you hear about the project? How did you come to find it?
I was at a conference in Munich, and a geologist working for Globex, which is a Canadian prospect generator, has over 160 projects in North America. He told me about this project, and as many would, I immediately dismissed him and said, "That's crazy. Come down to Mexico, like check out our projects down there, but Saxony seems a little bit too far." But one of our mantras at Mexico is never say no. You just always think about how. It's actually part of our values. And so I pitched the idea to Ben 3 or 4 months later. We were looking for high-grade precious metals project globally. The opportunity to drill a new discovery is very difficult to find. And, he did a little bit of homework and said, we have to go after this. So we optioned the ground in September after 9 months of due diligence, September 2019. And here we are. So right now we're waiting on our drill permit. It's been a very efficient process, and we'd hope to be drilling there in the first half of this year. Certainly COVID has put a little bit of a speed bump in there, but surprisingly little, and Germany is starting to reopen some of its areas for work and exploration.
Okay. And just to be clear, because some people may not know who Ben is, he's your VP Exploration, Ben Pullinger, right? Correct?
Our senior VP Geology. Thank
you. And you've spoken a lot today about the German asset, but you're actually going to come and participate in Adelaide Capital's BYOB in support of Canada Food Banks on Thursday. And we're going to be celebrating the closing of the Otis transaction, correct?
Absolutely. Which were, closed yesterday, and it's hard to celebrate like you used to in this, in this environment. But very excited about this acquisition. It's 1 million ounces of heap leach gold, 0.55 grams per ton. Economics on the project are excellent, 53% after-tax IRR at $1,300 gold. And so, where we are now is obviously much, much higher than that. And the real thing, though, is this exploration potential that we see there. The resource at 0.55, but a number of drill holes, including 95 meters at 4.2 grams per ton, which more structurally controlled gold hasn't really been followed up on. And that's the real larger 3 to 5 million ounce opportunity that this project has. Agnico was an investor in Otis, supported the transaction, and is now an investor and shareholder of Excellon. And they don't invest in things that they don't see a significant potential for. We really want to chase that down over the coming years. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Interesting. And you have a great management team and a great board, and you actually have a member of your management team that's got experience in Idaho, I believe, right?
Yeah, so we've added 3 new board members, Craig Lindsay, who is the CEO of Otis, Roger Norwich, who is on the board of Otis, and then Mike Timmons has joined as a new nominee to the board. And he was actually VP Corporate Development at Agnico for years, left a couple of years ago, and he led the investment into Otis by Agnico back in 2017 or so. So very, engaged in the project, interested in the project, and a real deal maker as well. He's going to be a huge asset to the company and somebody, we can really learn from.
Well, that sounds really interesting. I look forward to a longer update and celebrating with you on your successful closing your acquisition. I think, great portfolio of assets in the right commodities at the right time. It's pretty attractive. So thank you very much, Brendan, for taking the time to do this interview with me. And I'll see you on Thursday.
Thursday, BYOB.
BYOB.